All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something that is absolutely fascinating. We're going to propagate stunning real red roses right at home. And the best part? We're doing it using everyday, literal kitchen scraps that are probably sitting on your counter right now. We're taking cues directly from the experts over at Wonderful Garden #1 to break down the exact, real-deal chemistry of how you turn a single solitary bloom into a totally thriving new plant. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat. What in the world do pungent kitchen staples like garlic and orange peels have to do with growing delicate, beautiful red roses? I know it sounds like we're starting a soup recipe, not gardening, but you guys, this is actually a masterclass in organic chemistry. Nature has literally already given us some of the most powerful rooting hormones and antibacterial agents on the planet. We just got to know how to extract them. The folks at Wonderful Garden #1 have figured out exactly how to ditch those harsh synthetic chemicals by tapping into the hidden superpowers of these everyday foods. So first things first, you've got to start strong, which means prepping your cutting the right way. You're going to want to grab a healthy, disease-free rose bloom and cut a stem that's about 15 to 20 centimeters long. This is the sweet spot. It gives the plant just enough stored energy to survive the shock, but it's not so massive that it struggles to keep itself alive. Next, and this is super important, strip away all the leaves at the very base of that stem. Why? Well, if you leave foliage trapped in a highly humid environment, it's just going to rot. By removing those base leaves, you literally force the plant to push all its energy downward. That means far more efficient root formation rather than the plant wasting energy trying to keep unnecessary leaves alive. Now for our first kitchen ingredient, and we're using it in a remarkably direct way. Once your cutting is prepped, you take a peeled raw garlic clove and just gently rub it directly onto the fresh cut at the very bottom of the stem. It honestly seems way too simple, right? But raw garlic is an incredible natural antiseptic. It acts like an instant biological force field. By coating that open wound on the plant, you are immediately protecting the cutting from those invasive infections and fungal diseases that usually completely destroy propagation attempts. This quick sterilization step is exactly what paves the way for super fast, healthy root development. It's actually a brilliant biological tag team between these two core ingredients. Think of it like this. Garlic is your bodyguard. It acts as our natural antiseptic, totally sanitizing the area and aggressively blocking fungal diseases from attacking our vulnerable little cutting. On the flip side, the orange peel, that's the personal chef. It's absolutely packed with essential nutrients, especially vitamin C and E. But the real kicker is the essential oils and minerals trapped in that peel. They actively trigger strong, aggressive root growth and just massively boost the overall vitality of the plant. It's this perfectly balanced little ecosystem. One plays defense, the other plays offense. You know, there's a quote directly from our source that I think perfectly sums up this whole approach. Harnessing the power of nature. That's the big takeaway here. We really don't always need to rush to the garden center to buy super expensive synthetic rooting powders. The exact compounds we need to sterilize a plant wound and kickstart cellular growth, they already exist right there in the botanical world. By pairing the garlic with the citrus, we're basically just borrowing nature's own toolkit to trick this rose stem into building a brand new root system. It's pretty genius. Okay, so how do we actually turn these scraps into a rooting potion? It's super easy. First, take your orange peel and chop it up really fine. You want to maximize the surface area here. The smaller the pieces, the more of those powerful essential oils can escape. Then, grab 3 cloves of garlic, peel them, and mince those up too. Throw all those finely chopped bits together into a simple, clean glass jar. You are essentially setting up a botanical extraction, kind of like brewing a really potent herbal tea for your plants. Now pay close attention here, because precision is totally key to making sure this extraction is perfectly balanced. With your chopped garlic and peel in the jar, pour exactly 500 milliliters of hot water right over the top of the mixture. The heat is the catalyst here. It instantly starts breaking down the cell walls of the garlic and the citrus, literally pulling those essential oils, vitamins, and antiseptic properties out of the organic matter and into your water. And why exactly 500 milliliters? Because that gives you the perfect concentration. It makes the final liquid strong enough to stimulate serious growth, but not so harsh or acidic that it burns the poor rose stem. The second that hot water hits your mixture, give it a really good stir, and then just walk away. Seriously, leave it alone. You need to let it steep for exactly 1 hour. And during that hour, some serious chemical magic is happening. As the water cools, it's absorbing all those natural disinfectants from the garlic and the growth boosters from the orange. Once the hour is up, just grab a strainer and filter out all the solid chunks. What you're left with in your jar is basically liquid gold. It's an all-natural, perfectly balanced rooting solution. All right, time to introduce our rose to its new temporary home. Pour that freshly strained liquid back into a clean jar and place your prepped cutting right in. Our source recommends using a little piece of wire across the rim of the jar just to keep the cutting standing perfectly upright and stable. But listen, here is the make or break detail for this step. You have to position the stem so that the leaf node is facing outward. This is crucial. That specific little node is the exact biological site where the brand new leaf buds are going to emerge. If you have it facing inward or mashed up against the glass, you're literally physically blocking the plant's ability to sprout. Now, we obviously don't want all that liquid gold evaporating and leaving our cutting high and dry, so we use a really clever little household hack, the moist sponge seal. Grab an ordinary, clean kitchen sponge, get it damp, and poke a small hole right through the metal. Then very gently, thread the top of your rose cutting through that hole and let the sponge rest right at the opening of the jar. It acts like a breathable cork. It perfectly seals the top of the container, trapping the moisture inside and keeping your fragile cutting from drying out during these super critical early days of root formation. And we're going to take that moisture control one step further by building a DIY miniature greenhouse. With the sponge in place, just take a clear plastic bag and drake it entirely over the jar and the cutting. Then, use some tape to seal that bag tightly around the base of the jar. Boom! You've just created a completely closed, ultra-humid microclimate. This drastically cuts down on any water evaporation and shields the young plant from weird drafts or sudden temperature swings. Your cutting is now chilling in a highly stable, nutrient-dense bubble, which is exactly the environment it needs to focus 100% of its energy on making roots. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's a plant. Let's put this little greenhouse right in the bright, warm sunshine. No, do not do that. Resist the urge entirely. It is absolutely vital that you keep this entire setup in a cool, shaded area, totally out of direct sunlight. If you put it in the sun, the inside of that plastic bag will heat up incredibly fast. You will literally cook your delicate cutting, causing massive, probably fatal stress to the plant. A nice, cool, shaded spot keeps the internal temperature of your mini greenhouse perfectly moderate, letting those natural rooting hormones do their thing in peace. Okay, so what is the most mind-blowing part of this entire method? The timeline. It only takes 5 days. No way, right? But yes, according to the experts at Wonderful Garden #1, if you follow this routine exactly, the garlic rub, the hot water steep, the sponge, the plastic bag, it literally takes just 5 days to see major results. Within less than a week, you'll be able to look through that glass and see actual robust roots starting to form, plus totally healthy new shoots popping out of that node we carefully positioned. For a woody stem like a rose, that kind of turnaround is just stunningly fast. And hey, once you spot those little green shoots, you can celebrate. That is your visual proof that the propagation was a total success. The natural chemistry did its job. At this stage, your cutting has officially outgrown its liquid nursery. So carefully pop it out of the jar and transfer the newly rooted cutting into a real pot filled with nutrient-rich soil. This graduation day gives that brand new root system the physical room and the soil structure it desperately needs to grow into a massive, full-blooming bush. You know, this really leaves us with such a fascinating thought to wrap up our explainer today. We literally just watched how a couple of pungent kitchen scraps, stuff that was headed straight for the compost bin, contain the exact chemical blueprints needed to multiply life and sprout a gorgeous red rose from nothing but a severed stem. It really makes you stop and wonder, doesn't it? If a simple mix of garlic and orange peel can pull off a botanical miracle like this, what other wild scientific secrets are sitting right there on your kitchen counter just waiting for you to discover them? Keep experimenting, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.